believer, the number one thing that most of us want to do is to be consistent in our time with God. Unfortunately, things like work, our responsibilities, and just life can get in the way. And so in this video, I want to give you some creative ideas on how you can spend time with God consistently. I also want to mention that in the description box below, I have a free guide linked called How to Spend Time with God. And in that guide, you'll get over 20 plus creative ideas on how you can spend time with God, plus worship playlists and routines that you can implement immediately. The routines are really good for those of you who feel like you don't have enough time or you're too busy. It'll give you at least 3 routines that you can implement instantly. So you can click the link below to get that free guide. Now, a lot of people look at their responsibilities and all the things they have on their plate and they automatically think that they do not have enough time. They find themselves rushing out the door in the morning and then the whole day has gone by and you haven't spent time with God. But the truth is, it's not a lack of time that's causing you to be inconsistent. The number one thing that's stopping you from being inconsistent with your time with God is trying to do what everyone else is doing. I cannot tell you how many times I have spent trying to copy everyone's morning routine and time with God routines, and sometimes it's really helpful for inspiration, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. For some of you, early mornings is the perfect time to spend with God based on your schedule. And for some of you, the nighttime is the best way because that's when everyone is asleep. And for some of you, it's going to be your commute to work. That's going to be the best time for you to spend time with God. What's most important is that you are prioritizing this time. It doesn't matter when you do it, but you do want to set a time that you can be consistent each day. It may seem like a temptation to kind of just get in your time with God wherever you can fit it in, but I promise you, you'll benefit more from actually setting that time aside. Now, again, I'll talk about this more in the free guide, but today I just want to talk about some creative ways that you can spend time with God. Because a lot of times we come to our time with God and we have no idea what to do. We're trying to cram prayer, worship, devotional time, Bible study time, and all of this into 20 minutes, and then we find ourselves frustrated. Now, the first creative way to spend time with God is through Christian meditation. Now, there are so many forms to do this, but the purpose of this is to focus solely on the presence of God. We have so many distractions that are happening to us throughout the day, and Christian meditation is a great way to eliminate those distractions and focus solely on the presence of God. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. If you're just starting out, a guided meditation is a great way. Abide has a ton of them on YouTube, and then they also have an app that you can download that'll walk you through different characters of God. If you're dealing with certain things that are based on mood, like anxiety, or you're looking for peace throughout your day, they have theme meditations like that that will really help you to dial in and focus on God. These are really great to listen to in the car when you first wake up in the morning to kind of set the atmosphere, or even at night when you're just looking for a way to enter into God's presence. Christian meditation is a great way, again, to eliminate a lot of that noise and help usher you into the presence of God. Now, another form of Christian meditation is called silent prayer. So a lot of times we think that we always have to be talking in order to enter into the presence of God, but silent prayer is a great way to just posture yourself to listen and receive. We spend so much time talking and moving and doing all these things, but God speaks in a still small voice. And so silent prayer or silent meditation is a great way to just kind of calm everything that's going on in your mind and, again, allow yourself to receive from the Lord. I have been having some beautiful encounters lately just by sitting still in the presence of God, and God has literally imparted strength into me. I feel like this has kind of been a weird season where I'm just totally dependent on God, and I have felt Him in those silent meditations just drowning me in the spirit of peace and really renewing my strength. Now, if you're looking to try out silent prayer, just a few tips. I don't recommend that you do this first thing in the morning because typically you will probably fall back into sleep. I cannot tell you how many times where I've got up and I just wanted to sit still in the presence of God and I ended up sleeping. So probably don't do it first thing in the morning. It's a great place to get into maybe after worship. I noticed that when I set the atmosphere of worship and then I let maybe like a song or two play and then I'll let nothing play. That way I'm kind of already in God's presence and I'm silent. Another tip is to get one particular scripture on your mind, and bonus points if you can get a scripture that describes like visual imagery of heaven or God's character or something like that that you can get a visual in your mind for. That's something that's really going to help you to stay focused during silent meditation. Don't get discouraged if you're sitting still and all of a sudden you start thinking about all the things that you have to do. I like to keep a notebook beside me so that way if something does come up that is really actually important, I'll write it down and just get right back into the silent prayer. So those are the first two creative ways: Christian meditation and silent prayer. And again, those are mentioned in more detail in the free guide below. So the second creative way to spend time with God is through prayer walks. Prayer walks are a great strategy to disconnect from your current environment and get in a place where your mind can be refreshed. Something about walking and talking with God, I don't know what it is, but it just helps me to just be more relaxed. Again, sometimes we can be so tense and so focused on one particular agenda, but when you're walking, you're a lot more carefree and you're a lot more sensitive to what the Lord is saying. And I think that's because when we're walking, we're more alert of our environment and we're not around the same things. But a prayer walk is a great way to spend time with God. Again, you can do this first thing in the morning if you would like. Or for those of you who work a 9 to 5, I used to take prayer walks all the time right after I finished my lunch break. I think I would have anywhere from like a 30 to an hour lunch break, and I would take either like the last 10 or 15 minutes and just kind of walk around my job. Even if it was a little cold, like it was just so nice to disconnect from that environment. And I would find that I would, pour out my frustrations to God. And even sometimes I would put on worship music while I walked, and I would just kind of walk and talk with God. And I would just imagine Him walking there with me. Again, we serve a supernatural God, and so you don't want to limit the way that you can experience His love and His presence. So prayer walks are a great way to do that. And something else I want to mention about the prayer walks is you don't necessarily have to be in an aesthetic environment or by water to interact with the presence of God. God is an omnipresent God, and so He'll meet you wherever you are. So if you want to walk around your office building, or you want to even just take a quick walk to the parking garage or to your car, it does not matter, because it's all about just tapping into the awareness of the Lord. And again, a lot of these tips that I'm giving you are definitely great if you're on a time restraint or you're trying to get into the habit of being consistent and you found that maybe you have a hard time sitting still. These are things that you can implement and kind of break up to switch up your routine with God. And so the third creative way to spend time with God is through writing God love letters. I am a big advocate for journaling, but sometimes journaling can be a lot of our venting and kind of us working through our own emotions. But I like to every now and then write love letters to God because it really helps me to focus in on His character. And once you focus in on His character and the goodness and all the things that He's done and all of who He is, it really puts you in a mindset of worship. And so if you haven't already written a love letter to God, I recommend making this something that you do at least once a month, where you're just pouring out gratitude. We all know the power of gratitude, but biblical gratitude, thanking God, is literally an act of worship. In Psalms chapter 100 verses 4-5, it says to enter into His gates with thanksgiving and into His courts with praise. And you don't always have to do that audibly. So writing a love letter to God is something that can be done anywhere. You can do this on your lunch break in your car. You can do this first thing in the morning. You can do this in the evening after everyone is asleep. If you commute or take the train, you can write this on your phone. And so really what I want you to do is take the limits off of how you're encountering God and realize that consistency doesn't have to look the same every day. The whole purpose that you want to get to is to practice the presence of God. You want to be able to be aware of the presence of God wherever you go. And a lot of that starts with a heart posture. One thing that I've been praying recently is for God to change my appetite, that I would crave more of His presence. I've been praying that I would be addicted to His presence, because we are addicted to a lot of things. We're addicted to social media and people's opinions and just being entertained. But praying for a heart shift, that our hearts would be postured towards the Lord and that we would hunger and thirst after Him, is something that is really should be a prayer point of yours, because once your heart has shifted, then the way that you spend your time will shift also. We all hear the quote that says that we make time for the things that we want, and so I want more of the presence of the Lord. I know you do too, and sometimes we can't do it on our own, but praying for a heart shift is definitely a great way to be consistent in your time with God. So this is gonna wrap up part 1 of these creative ideas on how to spend time with God. Again, I talk about this in more detail in the How to Spend Time with God mini guide, so you can get that in the link in the description below. Again, it's gonna have 20 plus ways that you can spend time with God, plus worship playlists and routines that you can implement immediately. So do not forget to click the link in the description box to get that. And I hope that this was helpful. I'll talk to you guys on the next video.